A mother's hand connecting with her daughter's face in front of 200 wedding guests. It sounds like the climax of a tragedy, not the start of one. But for me, that moment was just the final, brutal scene in a play my family had been writing for years. The date was March 15th, 2024. I was at my sister's wedding at the Fairmont Copley Plaza in Boston. The room was filled with the city's elite, judges, partners at law firms, old money families whose names are on hospital wings. My mother, radiant in her designer gown, had just called me to the stage. She presented a stack of legal documents to the crowd, framing it as a heartwarming tradition. She wanted me to sign over my penthouse, a $2 million waterfront property, to my sister as a wedding gift. When I refused, she didn't argue. She didn't plead. She just turned and slapped me so hard my diamond stud flew across the polished floor, skittering to a stop under a table of silent, horrified onlookers. That frozen silence, everyone expected me to crumble. To cry, to apologize, to surrender like I always had. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I walked calmly to the table, bent down, and picked up my earring. I straightened the bent post, put it back in my ear, and looked my mother dead in the eye. Then I walked out, pulled out my phone, and made a single phone call. 1 hour later, the ballroom doors swung open again. When my mother saw who walked through them, her face went white. The woman she had told everyone was senile and confined to a nursing home had just arrived, with her lawyer and a briefcase full of evidence that would shatter our family forever. Before we get to that reckoning, let me rewind, because this story didn't start with a slap. It started 3 years earlier with a quiet phone call that should have been a blessing. My name is Amelia, and for most of my life, I was the invisible Harrison daughter. My grandmother, Evelyn, called on a Tuesday evening in March of 2021. I was in my tiny Somerville apartment, eating cold takeout and working on mood boards for a client's living room. "Amelia, darling," she said, her voice as sharp and clear as it had been when she was a law professor. "I'm updating my will. I'm leaving you the penthouse at 150 Seaport Boulevard." I nearly dropped my phone. "Why me, Grandma?" I asked. "Because you're the one who shows up," she said simply. "For 10 years, every Sunday you've come, you bring me tulips, you listen to my old stories. You don't want anything from me but my company. Your mother sends a Christmas card. Your sister sends nothing. This is my choice." The papers were finalized that June. The news, however, didn't stay secret for long. By August, my mother had summoned me to their Beacon Hill townhouse for what she called a family discussion. I walked into their living room and found them arranged like a tribunal. My father, Robert, in his leather chair. My mother, Victoria, on the settee. My sister, Chloe, perched on the arm of the couch. "We need to talk about Grandma's condition," Victoria began, her voice dripping with false concern. "Leaving a $2 million asset to one grandchild is not the act of a sound mind." "She seems perfectly sound to me," I said, sitting in the single straight-backed chair they'd left for me. Chloe let out a dramatic sigh. "This is so unfair. I love Grandma, I just have a demanding career. I don't have time for weekly tea parties." "You have a trust fund and a fiancé with a private jet," I thought. My father spoke, his voice the calm, measured tone of a corporate attorney. "The equitable solution, Amelia, would be for you to decline the inheritance or sell the property and divide the proceeds amongst the family." I looked at him, the man who had missed my college graduation for a golf tournament, telling me about fairness. "I'm not declining anything," I stated, my voice firmer than I felt. "Grandma made this decision. If you have a problem, you talk to her." Victoria's smile vanished, replaced by a look of cold steel. "Then, I hope you're ready for the consequences of such selfishness." The consequences were swift and silent. By September, I was erased, removed from the family group chat. I found out about Chloe's engagement party through an Instagram post, a candid shot of her laughing with our cousins at the Boston Harbor Hotel. No invite, no text. When I asked my mother, she said, "Oh, we just assumed you wouldn't want to come. You're so busy with your little decorating business." My little business was a thriving interior design firm with a roster of high-end clients. But to Victoria Harrison, anything that wasn't a law degree or a wealthy husband was just a hobby. The worst part wasn't the exclusion, but the narrative she began to weave. At cocktail parties and neighborhood gatherings, I heard through friends that Victoria was telling people I had manipulated an old, confused woman, that I had turned Evelyn against her own family for profit. I was the predator, the schemer, the ungrateful daughter. And through it all, I stayed silent. I thought if I just kept my head down and worked hard, the storm would pass. I didn't realize that my silence was the very thing she was counting on. The one person who worried me was my grandmother. In late 2021, she moved into a luxury senior living facility in Wellesley. She said she wanted peace and quiet, away from the family drama. But during my Sunday visits, I'd sometimes catch a flicker in her eyes, something that looked a lot like fear. "Grandma," I asked once, "did something happen between you and Mom?" She stared out the window at the manicured gardens for a long time. "Some things are best left alone, darling," she finally said. "At least for now." I let it go. I shouldn't have. 3 years passed. Then in December 2023, a thick cream-colored envelope arrived at my studio. Inside was a calligraphy invitation to Chloe's wedding. March 15th, 2024. Black tie. After 2 years of being a ghost, they were inviting me back. That evening, my mother called. "Amelia, darling," she cooed, her voice warm with practiced affection. "Did you get the invitation? This wedding is the perfect chance for our family to heal, to show everyone the Harrisons are united." She paused, and then came the real reason for the call. And it would be the perfect time to revisit the penthouse situation. Chloe and Tyler need a proper home, something befitting a future partner at Ropes and Gray. You could transfer the deed as a wedding gift. Think of how generous you'd look. The audacity was breathtaking. She was using my grandmother's supposed condition as an argument to give away the very gift my grandmother had given me. "I'm not transferring anything, Mom." The warmth in her voice evaporated instantly. "Chloe deserves this. She's marrying into a family of consequence. They need a home that reflects their status. Then Tyler's father can buy them one." The line went dead for a moment. "I expect you to think long and hard about this before the wedding," Victoria said, her voice like ice. "And I expect you to make the right choice." She hung up. I sat in my studio as the winter sun set, the weight of the choice pressing down on me. If I went to the wedding and refused her again, she would use the event, her biggest audience yet, to destroy me. She would tell everyone I was the selfish sister who ruined her siblings' special day. She would weaponize Boston's entire social network against me, poisoning my business referrals for years. But if I didn't go, it would be its own kind of surrender, proof that I was ashamed. Proof that I had something to hide. I almost didn't go, but a stubborn part of me refused to be bullied out of my own family. I RSVP'd. Yes. 1 week before the wedding, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was my grandmother. "Amelia," she said, her voice urgent. "Listen to me carefully. If something happens at that wedding, and I believe it will, you need to call my lawyer, David Miller, immediately. I'll text you his number. Can you do that?" I scrambled for a pen. "Grandma, what are you talking about? What's going to happen?" "Your mother thinks I don't know what she's planning," Evelyn said, a steely resolve in her voice. "She forgets I was a lawyer before she was born. I have everything prepared. David has the documents. If you need them, they're ready." "What documents?" I whispered. "Just remember the number," she said. "And remember that I love you, no matter what." She hung up. I saved the number, my hands shaking, with no idea of the bomb I was about to detonate. March 15th, 2024. The Fairmont Copley Plaza was a monument to Gilded Age opulence. Crystal chandeliers, white orchids cascading from every surface, a 12-piece jazz ensemble playing Gershwin. 200 guests. Lawyers, judges, doctors, the old guard of Boston society. My mother's perfect audience. I wore a simple navy dress, wanting to be invisible. My father found me by the ice sculpture, a swan naturally. "Glad you could make it, Amelia," he said, his eyes sliding past me. We had nothing to say. Then Chloe appeared in a cloud of tulle and crystals. She hugged me with the distant warmth you'd give a colleague at a networking event. "You came," she said, her smile camera ready. "Did you bring the paperwork?" "What paperwork?" I asked, my stomach clenching. "For the penthouse. Mom said you'd have the transfer documents ready as our wedding gift." So this was the plan. The invitation, the reconciliation theater, it was all just a setup for this moment. "Chloe, there are no transfer documents. The penthouse is mine. It's not a gift. It's not up for discussion." Her perfect smile flickered, then died. "But Mom said—" "I don't know what Mom told you, but I'm not signing anything." For a second, she looked exactly like Victoria, a flash of pure, uncontrolled fury. "Tyler and I already told the realtor we wouldn't need the Back Bay condo. We already told everyone. You told everyone about an apartment that doesn't belong to you. It should belong to us," she hissed, her voice rising. You live in that dump in Somerville. What do you even need a $2 million penthouse for? I'd spent my whole life being asked that question in 100 different ways. The point, Chloe, is that Grandma wanted me to have it. And her wishes matter more than your real estate plans. She leaned in close, her bridal perfume cloying. Mom is going to handle this, she whispered. And when she does, don't say I didn't warn you. She swept away, leaving me alone by the melting Swan. I needed air. I escaped to a stone balcony overlooking Copley Square. The cold March wind was a relief. My phone buzzed. It was my grandmother. Tell me what's happening, she said. I glanced through the glass doors at the glittering crowd. How do you know something is? Because I know my daughter. She's been gathering her people, building her case. She thinks I'm oblivious in my nursing home. She forgets I have friends who actually keep me informed. What is she planning? I don't know the exact move, but I know it will happen tonight in front of her audience. She needs witnesses to validate her. Evelyn's voice softened. Amelia, do you remember the number I gave you? I have it saved. If anything happens, anything at all, call David immediately. He's waiting. He has everything. I leaned against the cold stone. Grandma, what is everything? What aren't you telling me? A long pause. 6 months ago, your friend, the journalist, Mark, came to visit me. Mark. Been friends since college. He worked the investigative desk at the Boston Globe now. He came to you. Why? Because he found something strange, a property sale in 2020, a house on Cape Cod that belonged to me, a house I never sold. The world tilted. What do you mean you never sold it? I mean exactly that. Your mother sold it for over $800,000. She forged my signature on the deed. I gripped the railing, the cold metal biting into my palms. Grandma. I didn't want to believe it either. That's why I hired a forensics firm. They analyzed the signatures. The probability of forgery was over 98%. 98%. That wasn't doubt. That was certainty. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you go to the police? Because she's my daughter, Evelyn's voice cracked. Because I hoped. I still hope for an explanation that isn't what it looks like. That's why you moved, I said, the realization hitting me like a wave. Not for peace and quiet, because you couldn't trust her. You couldn't stand to be around her. I couldn't prove anything without destroying the family, she said. So I removed myself. I protected what I could, the penthouse, my remaining assets, and I waited for her to make a mistake. Her voice hardened. Tonight might be that mistake. If she pushes you too far, if she exposes herself publicly, David has everything. The forensic report, the original documents, witnesses who can place me in the hospital, unable to sign anything on the day of that sale. I closed my eyes, absorbing the weight of her words. My mother wasn't just a manipulator. She was a criminal. I'm not telling you this to make you hate her, Evelyn said. I'm telling you so you understand what you're dealing with, and so you know that if she corners you tonight, you are not alone. The jazz band started up a cheerful swing number inside. What should I do? Don't sign anything, and if it goes badly, call David. Tell him the documents are needed. He'll know what to do. She paused. And if he calls me, I'll be there within the hour. I've been waiting 3 years for this, darling. I'm not going to miss it. She hung up. I stood on the balcony for a long moment, the cold wind whipping my hair. Then I straightened my shoulders and walked back into the ballroom. I was ready, or so I thought. Protecting your peace is not a crime. It's a necessity. I'm going to pause here. If you've ever been in a room full of people who are supposed to love you, but instead make you feel small, drop a name in the comments of someone who made you feel seen. It helps to remember we're not alone. Now, back to the story. Dinner was served and cleared. The toasts were made, my father's perfunctory speech about legacy, Tyler's father waxing poetic about the merger of 2 great families. I sat at a back table trying to blend in with the distant cousins. But Victoria Harrison had other plans. A sharp clink of a knife against a crystal glass silenced the room. My mother stood at the head table, a microphone in her hand, her smile radiant. If I could have everyone's attention, she said. I'd like to facilitate a very special Harrison family tradition. A chill ran down my spine. As you all know, the Harrisons believe in supporting one another. We make sacrifices for each other. And tonight, in that spirit, I'd like to invite my eldest daughter, Amelia, to join me. 200 pairs of eyes turned to my table. I didn't move. Amelia, sweetheart, Victoria cooed, the encouragement in her voice a pure performance. Come on up, honey. I had no choice. If I refused, I'd be the one ruining the wedding. I stood and walked through the maze of tables, past whispered comments and curious stares, up to the platform where my mother waited. She put an arm around my shoulders, a gesture of affection for the crowd, a grip of steel for me. Now everyone, Amelia has been holding on to something very precious for the family. My mother, Evelyn, left her a beautiful penthouse in the Seaport district, a gift worth over $2 million. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw knowing nods. Amelia has been keeping it safe, Victoria continued, waiting for just the right moment to share it. And what better moment than this? Chloe's wedding day. She produced a thick folder from the podium and opened it to reveal a stack of legal documents. All Amelia needs to do is sign this quitclaim deed, and this incredible gift will help Chloe and Tyler start their marriage in a home that truly reflects their future. The room actually applauded. I thought it was a heartwarming gesture. Mom, I said, my voice quiet but clear in the microphone, I'm not signing this. Victoria's smile didn't waver. Don't be nervous, sweetheart, it's just a formality. It's not a formality, it's the apartment Grandma Evelyn left to me, not to Chloe, not to the family, to me. The applause died. The silence was deafening. Amelia, Victoria's voice dropped, but the mic still carried it. Her grip on my shoulder tightened painfully. Let's not do this here. I'm not doing anything, I'm just telling you no. Chloe appeared at the edge of the platform, her face a mask of wounded innocence. Amelia, you're really going to do this on my wedding day. Chloe, I didn't ask to be called up here. You all set this up without asking me. Because we knew you'd be selfish. Chloe spat. We knew you'd choose that stupid apartment over your own family. It's not stupid when you want to live in it. Victoria's composure finally shattered. Her face reddened, her voice rising, amplified through the speakers. You ungrateful child, after everything we've done for you. After we raised you, educated you, supported your little business, you can't do this one thing for your sister. You didn't support my business, you've never even been to my studio, and you didn't raise me. Grandma did, every summer while you were at your galas and conferences anywhere but home. Gasps scattered through the audience. I'd said too much, but I couldn't stop. The penthouse is mine because Grandma wanted me to have it because I was there. I was present, and no amount of public humiliation is going to change that. Victoria's hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. The slap connected with my left cheek. A crack so loud it echoed in the silent room. My head snapped to the side. My diamond earring, the one Grandma had given me for my 30th birthday, flew off and bounced across the marble floor with a tiny, crystalline ting. For a moment I stood perfectly still. My cheek burned, my vision blurred. I could feel every eye in the ballroom boring into me, waiting to see if I would cry. What I did was breathe. I calmly walked to where the earring had landed, bent down and picked it up. It was slightly bent. I straightened the post methodically, deliberately. I put it back on. Then I looked at my mother. That's the last time you will ever touch me. My voice was steady. I turned and walked off the platform, through the tables, past the whispers and the stairs, out the double doors of the ballroom and into the lobby. I didn't run, I didn't cry. I found a quiet corner near the concierge desk, pulled out my phone, and dialed the number my grandmother had given me. It rang once. David Miller's office. This is Amelia Harrison, I said, my voice calm, steady. Please tell my grandmother that the documents are needed. Understood, Miss Harrison, she'll be there within the hour. I hung up. I sat down on a velvet bench, touched my stinging cheek, and waited. 1 hour. That's all I needed. 1 hour until everything changed. At 8:45 p.m., the main doors of the Fairmont Copley Plaza opened. My grandmother walked in. Evelyn Harrison was 78 years old. She used a cane now, her gait slower than I remembered. But her presence radiated the same formidable authority that had commanded Harvard law lecture halls for 30 years. She wore a gray cashmere coat over a simple black dress. Beside her walked David Miller, mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it held the weight of the world. Grandma, I stood up, my composure cracking. You came. She crossed the lobby and gently took my face in her hands, examining my cheek. She hit you? Yes. Evelyn's jaw tightened. She kissed my forehead. Then let's finish this. We walked into the ballroom together. The wedding was in chaos, guests huddled in clusters, their champagne forgotten. Chloe was crying real tears this time, while Tyler and his parents hovered nearby, looking mortified. Victoria stood near the head table, gesturing frantically at my father. No one noticed us at first. Then a woman gasped, then another. And then Victoria turned and saw her mother walking towards her. Mother! The word came out strangled. Victoria's face went white. What are you? How are you? I'm here for my granddaughter's wedding, Evelyn said, her voice effortlessly carrying through the silent room. I wasn't invited, of course, but I decided to come anyway. Chloe, mascara streaming down her face, just stared. What is this? Victoria's voice rose to shriek. What are you doing here? I'm doing what I should have done 3 years ago, Evelyn said. She stopped about 10 feet from her daughter, turning to face the assembled guests, the lawyers, the judges, her former colleagues. My name is Evelyn Harrison. I am of sound mind, and I am here to confirm that the penthouse at 150 Seaport Boulevard, the property my daughter has been publicly demanding my granddaughter surrender, was left to Amelia Harrison in my will, dated June 14, 2019. That will is legal, valid, and enforceable. David Miller stepped forward, opening his briefcase. This is a certified copy of Mrs. Harrison's will, notarized and filed with the Suffolk County Probate Court. Victoria's face contorted. This is absurd. Mother, you're confused. You don't know what you're saying. I understand perfectly, Evelyn replied, her voice like ice. What you don't understand is that I've been watching you for 3 years. She nodded to David, who withdrew a second set of documents. These are transaction records for a property on Cape Cod, he announced to the room. A property that was deeded in Mrs. Harrison's name until September 12, 2020, when it was sold for $875,000. The room went completely silent. You could hear the ice melting in the abandoned champagne buckets. I did not sell that property, Evelyn continued. I could not have sold that property. I was in Massachusetts General Hospital for 6 weeks that fall, recovering from a broken hip. I signed nothing. I authorized nothing. Victoria's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. David produced a third document. This is a forensic analysis report from a certified handwriting firm. They examined the signature on the Cape Cod sale documents against authentic samples of Mrs. Harrison's handwriting. He turned to the room, his voice carrying the weight of a courtroom. Their conclusion, the signature is inconsistent. Probability of forgery, 98.7%. A roar of murmurs erupted. I saw Tyler's father exchange a long, significant look with another attorney. You're lying, Victoria shrieked. This is fabricated. You're senile, mother. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm sharp enough to hire experts, Evelyn replied calmly. I'm sharp enough to preserve evidence, and I'm sharp enough to have forwarded this entire file to the Suffolk County District Attorney's office last week. The color drained completely from Victoria's face. You didn't. Forgery and fraud, Victoria. Up to 5 years in prison under Massachusetts law. Evelyn's voice was almost gentle now, the same tone she'd used with first-year students. I didn't want to believe my own daughter could do this. I gave you 3 years to confess, but instead, you spent those years slandering my granddaughter, calling me senile, and trying to steal her inheritance the same way you stole my property. Victoria spun to face my father. Robert, say something. Stop this. My father, who had stood silently through it all, took a step backward. I didn't know, he said, his voice flat. I didn't know about the Cape Cod house. You signed the transfer, Victoria screamed. I signed what you told me to sign. I didn't know it was forged. The room watched in horrified fascination as 35 years of marriage disintegrated. Chloe finally spoke, her voice small and broken. Mom, what? What is Grandma talking about? Victoria couldn't answer. She stood in the center of her own perfectly constructed stage, her perfect wedding, her perfect audience, and everything was collapsing. Evelyn turned to me. Her eyes were tired but resolute. Amelia, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I'm sorry I waited so long. It's okay, Grandma, I said, taking her hand. I understand. She squeezed my fingers. Then she looked at Victoria one last time. You lost me the day I discovered what you'd done. Tonight, everyone else just got to see the truth. She paused. I hope someday you find it in yourself to take responsibility, but I won't hold my breath. She turned towards the exit. I walked beside her. Behind us, Victoria started screaming, incoherent denials, accusations, demands. I heard Tyler's parents say something sharp and final to Chloe. I heard the crowds murmur crescendo into a roar of gossip, but I didn't look back. I need to pause again. When I walked out of that ballroom with my grandmother, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was just thinking about how much time we'd lost and how grateful I was that we still had some left. If this story is making you think of someone who stood up for you, please subscribe and share this with them. Back to the story. We made it to the lobby before Tyler caught up with us. I heard his dress shoes clicking on the marble. I turned, expecting anger. Instead, I saw calculation. Mrs. Harrison, he said, addressing my grandmother directly. I think we should talk about this privately. There may be some misunderstandings. Evelyn regarded him with the expression she reserved for particularly slow students. There are no misunderstandings, Mr. Caldwell, but surely the whole Cape Cod situation. Families have disputes. Paperwork gets complicated if we could just sit down with the lawyers. The paperwork was forged. My daughter committed fraud. Those aren't disputes, they're crimes. Tyler shifted his weight, his polished mask slipping to reveal something desperate. The penthouse. Chloe mentioned you might be reconsidering your will given the circumstances. Perhaps there's a way to. Mr. Caldwell, Evelyn cut him off, her voice surgical steel. I'm not reconsidering anything. The penthouse belongs to Amelia. And if you're asking whether I'll give my remaining assets to a granddaughter who just married a man willing to beg at a ballroom door, the answer is no. Love without respect isn't love. It's just habit. Tyler's face reddened. Evelyn smiled, that particular smile that made opposing attorneys nervous. You married the wrong Harrison, young man, and frankly, given what I've seen of your character tonight. Chloe is welcome to you. She turned away. David Miller stepped forward, blocking Tyler's path. I'd advise you to return to your wedding, Mr. Caldwell. Anything you say now could be relevant to ongoing investigations. Tyler Caldwell, son of a managing partner at one of Boston's most prestigious firms, suddenly looked very young and very scared. He retreated without another word. We stepped out into the cold March night. The air smelled of rain. Streetlights cast golden pools on the cobblestones of Copley Square. Grandma, I said, my voice thick, I'm so sorry about the wedding, about all of it. She patted my arm. Don't be sorry, I've been waiting 3 years to say those things. It felt wonderful. Despite everything, I laughed. It came out raw and broken, but it was real. What happens now? David answered, his voice professional. The DA will proceed with their investigation. The evidence is compelling. Whether charges are filed is up to them. And Victoria? Evelyn's face softened with something that might have been grief. That's up to the courts now. I've done what I needed to do. A town car pulled up. David had arranged it. I should get your grandmother back, he said. Evelyn waved a dismissive hand. I'm not fragile, David. She turned to me. Come visit tomorrow. We have a lot to talk about. She hugged me, a real hug. I held on. I love you, my sweet girl. I love you too, Grandma. She climbed into the car. I watched it disappear into the Boston night. I stood alone on the sidewalk for a long time. My phone buzzed. A text from Mark, my journalist friend, just saw a Globe reporter tweet something cryptic about a prominent Boston family. Was that? I typed back, I'll explain later. Thank you. Another text from a number I didn't recognize. Amelia, it's Jennifer from Becker Legal. We were at the wedding. I owe you an apology. I believed things I shouldn't have. If you're ever interested in discussing design work for our new office, please call me. I stared at the screen. One of the women who had been whispering about me, now offering me a contract. I saved the number. Then I put my phone away and walked toward the parking garage. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe. The fallout was swift. 2 weeks later, Victoria Harrison was questioned by the DA. The interview lasted 4 hours. Her lawyer, a family friend, withdrew from the case within days. My father moved to a hotel. He released a statement saying he was processing recent revelations and had no prior knowledge. Whether anyone believed him was another matter. His signature was on the forged documents, after all. Chloe and Tyler postponed their honeymoon indefinitely. The social consequences were precise. Victoria was disinvited from the charity gala she'd co-chaired for 17 years. The Boston Bar Association opened an ethics inquiry. On April 10th, a small item appeared in the Boston Globe's legal column. Boston area attorney under investigation for alleged document fraud in 2020 real estate transaction. No names were needed. Everyone knew. I received dozens of texts. Some were apologies, some were support. A few were gossip fishing, which I ignored. The message that mattered most was from Jennifer at Becker Legal. She followed up her text with a formal email, apologizing properly and offering me the contract to redesign their conference floor. I took the meeting. It was the largest contract I'd ever landed, an $82,000 project. By May, I had 2 more inquiries from attorneys who'd been at the wedding. Word was spreading, not just about Victoria's downfall, but about my work. I vetted every client carefully, but slowly I began to rebuild. Not just my business, myself. June 2024. I'm sitting on the balcony of my penthouse watching the sun set over Boston Harbor. The sky is streaked with orange and pink. My grandmother is here, sitting beside me. She comes every Sunday now. We spend the day together, sometimes the museum, sometimes just sitting here talking. Today, we talked about my father, he called. He wanted to explain, I tell her, to tell me his side. Do you believe him? I think about it. I believe he chose not to know. I believe he's been choosing not to know for 35 years. I told him I need time, that if he wants a relationship, he'll have to earn it by showing up consistently, not by explaining. She squeezes my hand. That's a healthy boundary, sweetheart. Chloe texted me, I add. She wants to talk. Will you? I look out at the harbor. Not yet, maybe not for a long time. She knew Grandma, maybe not about the fraud, but about the manipulation. She never once defended me. If she wants a sister, she has to be willing to see the truth. And I don't think she's there yet. Evelyn nods. You've learned something important, Amelia. Something I wish I'd learned at your age. What's that? Being kind to yourself isn't the opposite of being kind to others. It's the foundation. That love without respect isn't love. It's just habit. You deserve both. I started therapy in April. It's hard, but it's the most important thing I've ever done for myself. There's something else, too. A man named Alex, an architect I met at a design conference. He has kind eyes and no idea who the Harrisons of Beacon Hill are. He likes me for me. It's new. It's slow. It's the first time I've let someone in without worrying about what they might think of my family. My grandmother finishes her wine. I've been thinking about what I want my legacy to be. You've already given me a legacy, I say, gesturing at the view. Not the property, she shakes her head. The other thing, I spent too many years keeping the peace, staying quiet to avoid conflict, letting Victoria become who she became because confronting her was too painful. She looks at me steadily. I don't want that for you. I want you to speak the truth even when it's hard. I want you to protect yourself even when it feels selfish. I feel tears prick my eyes. I'll remember. Good, now what's for dinner? I laugh. This is my life now. A home that's really mine. A grandmother who loves me. A business that's growing. A future I'm building myself. One honest choice at a time. If you're watching this, maybe you're in a situation where your family expects you to sacrifice yourself for their comfort. Maybe you've been told that setting limits is selfish. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to be kind to yourself. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you that your boundaries matter, please hit that like button and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more stories about family, resilience, and finding your way. Check the description for more videos. And until next time, remember, protecting your peace is not a crime, it's a necessity. Take care.